Hey everybody, today we got an awesome show for you. We're out here in Aurora, Illinois, Lake Patterson, part of Oakhurst Forest Preserve. It's a lake that doesn't get a lot of fishing pressure, mainly because of how weed-choked the body of water is. A lot of milfoil, a lot of lily pads as well. But today we're going to show you some presentations and some little tricks, little tips, and little techniques that we can do to ensure we catch more fish, even dealing with these jungle-like conditions that we get out here. It's the first part of June. It's a little bit cooler than it has been. Nasty cold front rolling through this afternoon. But we've had weather in the 70s and 80s leading up to today. About 65 right now. But we're going to show you a wide variety of baits that we can use to help catch fish when these fronts are rolling through. The key to today, variety. You're going to see topwaters, you're going to see frogs, you're going to see soft plastics. That's all today. With me, my one and only, my girlfriend Brandy. We're going to show you how she can throw a Senko like nobody else. We're going to get her in on the fish as well. Sit back, relax, enjoy. This is Spot On Fishing. Let me show you guys real quick. We're going to be doing a couple different techniques right off the bat here. I'm going to be up in the front of the boat throwing a topwater. My girlfriend Brandy's with me today. She's going to be running a Senko. It's a straight tail worm. Let me show you exactly how we rig these guys up, because we are fishing some pretty thick weed flats, and how we can rig these up so you won't get hung up in the weeds. It's what we call a Texas rig. It's pretty basic. There's two heads on a Senko. You have your tail, and you have your bigger, fatter head. We're going to come through that bigger, fatter head right there. What we do, we take our hook point, come right through the top, go right to the bend of the hook there. Pop it out. At this point, we'll slide it all the way up. We're actually going to cover the knot, so you want to have your hook tied on first before you put the worm on. Turn it like so. We'll go ahead, tuck that worm right back into it. And now, just to make it totally weedless, we just take the point of the hook right into the skin. Totally weedless rig. Let me show you one other little trick we do here. We want a little bit of a contrasting color. Now, you can get different dyes and sprays, dip forms, the pen. Pen works really good. You don't have to worry about any kind of mess. And I just like to put a little bit right on the tail. Now, this is also garlic scented, so it'll give them a little taste of garlic, a little bit of color to it as well. And that right there will help you get more bites. One other thing we're doing today, because we are in really thick weeds, we have these baits rigged up. This is generally how you always run a Senko. Straight, weightless, no weight involved. We want a nice slow fall, but we're fishing really thick mats. So here's a little trick that we like to do. We actually put a little 1/32 ounce bullet weight, free sliding bullet weight up there. Now, it's not a whole lot of weight, but what we want it to do when we pitch that Senko out into the weed flats, what's going to happen is, generally, if we didn't have that weight, that Senko is going to perch itself right on the edge of a weed. It's not going to get down to the bottom underneath those mats. This little 1/32 ounce bullet weight will slide down, it'll find the holes in the pockets, and slowly work our Senko down to the bottom. Underneath these thick mats, there's anywhere from 2 to 4 feet of clearance. So this is why we need to get through the mats, get through them slowly in a natural presentation. That little 1/32 ounce bullet weight is magic. Let's go catch some fish. Okay, here you go, baby. Let me get this one in here.
That's right, sweetheart. Swing this way.
There we go. Well, there's a starter. Nice little guy. First fish of the day on a little Senko. Nice little fish. Want to give him some smooches?
No, I'm not kissing the fish.
Want to hold him?
We'll hold the next one, Mike.
There's so many different ways we can work these topwater baits, these topwater gliders. This is that Head & Super Spook Junior. And we can do a straight retrieve. We can integrate pauses to the bait as well. Play around. Sometimes those fish like it if we really get it going quick. Integrate a pause or two. Sometimes they just want that real slow cadence, just kind of plopping it along. The key is though, to always keep that thing, when you're moving it, you want it to do that glide side to side. Now there's two ways guys will work these baits. You can either work it with your rod tip up or you can do it down. I prefer to do it with the rod tip down. When you work these baits and you keep that rod tip down, what's going to actually happen is you get more of a head slap to it. So that thing will actually kind of be slapping as she's going along. And what's nice, baits like this has that one single BB to it, so you get a good knock as it's going side to side. With that head slap, causes a lot of commotion. Makes it a lot easier for fish to hone in on a topwater bait. You gotta tighten up that drag a little bit, baby.
Which way?
Just turn that knob. There you go.
She's got a fish. Yeah.
Okay, someone's got to come get it.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing about me, Mike. I don't touch my own fish.
Another thing too, you definitely want to keep in mind when you're fishing topwaters, definitely run monofilament for this application. Oops, went right through those weeds. Monofilament actually has a little bit of stretch to it, and that's something we want. When we're fishing topwaters, we want a little bit of forgiveness to these baits. Basically, a lot of times a fish may come up and just try to suck that bait in. Having that little bit of stretch to it allows us to let that fish take it. Also, if you notice, I am running a little bit of a softer tip rod as well. And just that little extra give to it helps those fish suck that bait in. It'll increase your hookup ratio a lot when you're fishing topwaters. There we go. Boy, she just came up and sucked that one in. Not an overly aggressive strike. Come here, little girl. Oh! That is why you shouldn't try to boat flip the bigger ones. Had it been a tournament situation, we'd have definitely handled that one a little better, but hey, good to see him chasing the topwater today. So many people think when we're getting a cold front pushing through like this, we really have to always slow down, and that's not always the case. You know, in this regards, the pressure really hasn't started to fall yet. The fish are going to start feeding rather heavily, and really, you gotta understand the fish calling power that a topwater bait has. You know, while true, you know, we like to use them in water that's a little bit warmer, surface temp wise, we can still use these baits in the spring and in the fall. It's a great bait for finding active fish, for finding aggressive fish. And honestly, topwaters is the most fun way to catch them, to see a fish come up and eat the bait. Best tip I can give you when you're throwing topwaters though, make sure you feel them before you set the hook. Don't just set the hook on the explosion. If you do, you'll pull it right out of his mouth every time. So always, always, always make sure you feel them before you set that hook. See when that bait, see how that hook point came out? A lot of times when we miss a fish, that worm will get all kinds of discombobulated. We just want to do a little touch up, make sure it's nice and straight. Check it out. It's getting a little tore up here, but we should still get one more fish out of that one before we have to retire it. You're back in business. We got a little bit of a clearance above the tops of these weed flats, but there's not much. And if she goes straight down, which that fish just did, she's still in there. But I'm taking about 10 pounds of vegetation with her. Let's see if I can't get some of these weeds off of her here and actually find her in all this mess. There she is. Nice topwater fish there.
It's going okay. All of a sudden the fish stopped biting. I blame Tony. Okay, maybe I spoke too soon. Yes, but it doesn't want to move. Why do I get the feeling I'm going to bring half the weeds up with the fish? Oh, someone's behind me. Jesus Christ. I have a very not happy fish. Jiminy Cricket.
That has a lot of weeds. Hopefully that fish is still in there.
That's definitely a lot of weeds.
If you can. Let's see if he's still there. Yeah, there's something kicking in there.
All that fight for that little guy.
Oh my goodness gracious. You know what, actually what we got to do on this one, give me a little line there, sweetheart. Actually what we're going to do in situations when something like this happens and we're using a single hook like this, notice how that fish actually swallowed that hook. What we're going to do is just rip that worm off. We'll go ahead and just nip that line. Because when they're down in the gullet like that, the worst thing you can do is actually try to pull that hook out. You'll end up killing the fish. That hook will rust out in a few days. The enzymes of the fish will rust it right out. He'll be good as good. Good as new, rather. Let me show you this here since we have to retie Brandy, since we got to cut that one off. The knot I like to run the best is the polymer knot. The way we tie it, we bring that line right through the eyelet. We actually come back right through where we just came from. And essentially all we're doing is doubling the line. What we do then, we make an overhand knot just like when we're tying our shoes. Now we don't want to cinch it down. We made the overhand knot, and because the line's doubled, we have that loop. pass the hook right on through, wet it, and then we can go ahead and cinch it down and crimp the tag in pretty close. It won't slip. One of the easiest, quickest, and strongest knots you can tie is the polymer knot. Hope it's a pig. I'll get halfway up and it'll stop me. Saving your life.
And the camera. And the future of our show.
There we go.
Thank you.
Just came up and sucked it in. There's a good one. Come here, sweetheart. Oh, yeah. It's got a little girth to her. She's been feeding pretty heavily. These fish out here on Patterson feed a lot on little bluegills. There's some small crappies in here too. And these are, you know, basically the main forage bases in these bodies of waters. And a lot of these little lakes, the forest preserve lakes of the Chicagoland area, just feeding on little panfish, but get those nice fat bellies to them. Let's get that fish back in. We'll get another one. Came off on you? See? Nope, he missed. So that's the thing. If you don't feel that strike, if you don't actually feel him connect with that bait, don't set the hook. Definitely something you gotta kind of teach yourself to just be patient and wait. It's so easy to jump the gun and want to set the hook as soon as you see a fish come up, but as soon as you do something like that, you're just gonna pull the bait right out of his mouth. He'll never get a hook in him. See, right there, I jumped the gun a little bit on that one. Got a little excited. Sometimes it's hard.
And there she goes. Maybe not. Another one, I'm gonna pull up half the weeds off the bottom.
That happens.
Yeah, I was told this was a weed-free way of fishing.
Oh, once you get a fish on though, it drags out the
she's
weeds.
gone.
And there's one other little trick we'll do with a topwater bait, what I like to do. You know, it comes from the factory with just that screw eye in place. But what I actually do is put a split ring on there. And that split ring acts like a pivot point, so we'll actually get a little more sway and get a little more zig, a little more zag to the bait that way. Some guys like just using a snap or a snap swivel, but to me that just gives you an unnecessary breaking point. That split ring is going to stay closed pretty much permanently for you. It's a stronger bond, and it'll still give us that same end result to give us a little more zig, a little more zag to it. I can't believe how many carp are rolling out here. Yeah. Had them. Unfortunately, the joys of topwater, that happens quite a bit. Those fish will come up, swing and miss. That one I just barely kind of nipped. She didn't really get a full hook in her. Yeah, so many times those fish do that to us. Blow up, miss. Either they'll just knock the bait out of the water. Sometimes they won't even actually open their mouth. They'll actually come up and just hit it with their mouth closed. There's times they'll be a foot behind that thing, swirling on it. There's times they'll come up and suck it in. There's times they just totally annihilate it and connect. Just so many variables with top water baits, but it's fun. It is to me my favorite style of fishing, to get to see the fish come up and eat it. And it doesn't matter if we're fishing a spook or if we're throwing a popper, even if we're in lily pads fishing frogs. Anytime we can actually physically see those fish come up, and it doesn't matter if we're talking bass or muskies or pike, top water is to me the be-all end-all. It is a lot of fun. Not my number one tournament choice by any means, but definitely for fun fishing, yeah, there's nothing like it. And the only reason I say, it's not my first choice in a tournament situation is the hook ratio, your hookup ratio does drop tremendously when you're fishing top waters, and every fish counts in a tournament situation. But there's times we found ourselves in situations where that's the only thing that those fish will move on. There we go. See if I can keep her head up, keep her from going down in them weeds on me. There we go. Look at that one. Right in the corner of the mouth. Pretty fish. You get those darker colors sitting in all this thick vegetation like that. They definitely darken up a little bit so they blend in with their surroundings and they can ambush all their prey that way. Just a nice Lake Patterson bass.